Who's going to speak? Bertha has spoken. Community triad tonight. Dinner. Snack dinner. Yeah. December 2nd. So we're 1-2-1-2-2022 today. Zeros, ones, and twos. It's like, that's like programming in a computer. Remember the original computer programs? They were ones and zeros. And you had the little cursor on the screen. Remember, what was that first video game?
Oh.
And Space Invaders was an early one. Remember Space Invaders?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, that was a good one.
I know.
Hey, if you're young and you're watching this, go back and look up Space Invaders. You had these like, so there was these alien things that would come down and you had to like wipe them out before they would land. And then if a certain amount landed, you died. I forgot how it worked, but wow, it was kind of fun though, if you're into like wiping stuff out. But today, the stuff today is incredible. So Health Alkemy, Craig Lane, anonymous audience, we'll just say, for now. The email goes out, I imagine myself being like immensely popular and the thousands are waiting to hear what I have to say. And it's like 10 people, it's like, what's weird about, if you're watching this, then you're definitely like what I call the spiritual family or the mansion of the realm of Craig Lane, which includes Yogananda and Adyashanti. So it includes Buddhist. I mean, I even have a place in my heart for Jehovah's Witnesses now, because I didn't believe that Satanists were running the world 3 decades ago. And I have a friend who's a Jehovah's Witness and she's stayed devoted her whole life. And Amy, I love you. I mean, I wanted to marry this person, but she was a witness and we've maintained our friendship. And now I would ask her advice of like, yeah, I see the satanic thing now. And the Bible was talking about this shit, and that's what, at their best, I'm not anti-Jehovah's Witness, believe me. The proselytizing and the solicitations, and I mean, some of these people were just very high pressure salesman type, is Bible study. So if you're studying divine law, I'm okay with that, but just remain objective, please. I went to a few of their meetings, and that's why I couldn't marry this person, was because I would tear these people apart with just rational logic. Like, that makes no sense at all. You can't take that literally. That's a metaphor. Right.
It's again, people wanting to believe.
Well, the masses need that, but there's 3 categories of spirituality. There's the asleep, which is by far the majority, and it's not absolute. They're more asleep than they are awake. So they remain sort of in this realm of like being leaves blown in the wind of karma. And then there's the first awakened crowd, and that's the majority of the awakened ones, and they're more awake than they are asleep on that continuum. And then there's the ones who have awakened, where they have become enlightened from their enlightenment. And they're not human anymore at that point, because the transcendent self, there can never be a bridge between the Father and the Son. What we call the Holy Ghost is the bridge, but we can fail well. Those people are masters of masquerade and shape-shifting. And I believe some of them, when they've really mastered this, Castaneda talks about it as manifesting your dream body. So you could be a crow, or when I see a dragonfly, I'm always on like, is that really a dragonfly? I'll give you an example of this. One of my friends was out drinking one night downtown in Santa Cruz, and it was too late to even get a taxi. So she had to walk like a half hour home to one, not super far, but a half hour walk in the middle of the night in Santa Cruz. Yeah. Not safe. And she said this old, but really good looking, sort of 5'4", almost like a gnome or a dwarf looking guy appears, and when she's about to leave the bar, and he's very friendly, and women are, he feels very safe to her. And so he's like, I'll walk you home. And she's like, wow, good luck, So he was talking to her while they're walking, and a half hour goes by, and then he's on the sidewalk, and she walks into the house. And so she had said goodbye, and then she had turned around to walk in, and then she turned around and he had gone. He was just gone. And I go, that's because that wasn't a person. I go, something came to help you, because something bad was probably going to happen.
Holy shit.
It was an intervention. I've had a number in my own life where I'm about to die, and then everything stops, and I get to choose to do something else. Many times. And I don't know if you've ever had the freeze, I call it. You ever had the freeze where you're in a life-threatening situation and suddenly everything freezes? No, you guys aren't familiar with this. Okay. we're recording right now. I keep forgetting that. So the big major topic tonight is, or if you're just listening this way or walking around the house, which is probably the best way to do this, which I will not be doing a PowerPoint tonight so much as oral. Because you'll see if you listen to me enough, there's a common theme that plays through. And like Jesus of Nazareth didn't have a coherent teaching, because you have sort of there's the master plan of divine law, how it manifests in the world here, and then there's like how it subjectively applies to each person or being, and that's like I can never know the totality of your experience. You can have the totality of my experience. Never. But the best we can get is we can bridge and experience the present together, which, the first time I took MDMA, we had like 10 of us with our hands doing this. And it was the first time in my life where I didn't know where my hands were. Like, it was like, which hand is mine kind of moment. Like, wow, that's where, that's what consciousness naturally is it's not, the ego is what feed this whole. That's what the ego at its best is what it is. It's for, is like, hey, please feed here. Or you're, as there are people in India that I've read about that they don't know, they go into samadhi and they don't know where they are anymore. They don't know who's pooping. They don't know which mouth to feed.
Over a period of time?
Yeah, over a period of time. Wow. Not sustained too long, I hear, but I haven't studied it, so I don't know. To be authentic, I'd say I don't, I've never gotten, there's always been when there's heavy awareness, there's usually a me and another. And then I know when the me and the other disappears, that there's no way really to describe that. And Ramakrishna tried, bless his heart, for, Ramakrishna?
Yeah.
I love his story. If you ever heard the story of Ramakrishna, by the way, you got to read it. The original Ramakrishna in India, 1930? I think 1930. But most important thing is that, like tonight, I sent a little email newsletter out, and the way it's presented in the email is like, there's a lot of root cause as far as like the health threats around us, but because of the nature of the media we're in, those of you know what I'm talking about. There's certain keywords I can't use anymore. I already have a strike, and I haven't even posted on YouTube in a number of weeks since my strike expired, because I'm afraid that I'm 15 years invested in, I love being a YouTuber. Those of you out there who are YouTubers long-term, you know what I mean? It's like when we started 15, 20, years ago, it was like, wow, it's great, it's fun. It's like a novel idea. And so now here we are. And so to me, there's some most important things I can share. And so tonight would just be the few of us going through solutions. And it's always better with an audience, because then, questions come in that I wouldn't think of. And there was one community dinner where nobody showed up, and I played audience and me. It's like, what do you think, Craig? It was quite entertaining, I'm sure. I go back and look at the analytics, so I kind of know what works. And generally the talks have to be less than an hour. Usually if they're somewhere around 20 or 30 minutes, there's a lot more reviews. Because I know an hour is intimidating. It's like, oh, fuck, he's talking for an hour. So what we're trying to do is break stuff up. I have these Filipinos working with me, these virtual assistants, and I'm paying them $8 an hour, and they only get paid $8 a day for a whole day's work over there. And I'm like, I'm paying them more. Like a lot of these VAs over in the Philippines make $4 an hour for the cheapskates over here. And it's like, 4 to 8 on my level is nothing. But if it makes a difference in their world, then just give them 8. Yeah. Well, they have a high level skill set too. I told the guy that, so bless you guys. You know who you are. And so what's allowing is to break up these longer videos into snippets, because I don't want to go back and watch all my videos, but I'll pay somebody to do it. If I'm paying you $8 an hour, go at it. Yeah. So I give them 20 hours a week ration, and then, I can't pay you more than that. So they're mostly good with their boundaries around that, but they're really, it's really interesting to see something I've made, and then I let them have creative license. And then I'm really just, as long as you're representing the branding and the colors and, pretty much 90% success rate with everything they've done. I'm just really impressed with her. Like the whole family works, because, you got 20-hour week ration, $8 an hour. It's like, that's like, they're living like kings and queens over there, so I'm just so happy that's what I always wanted, was to be able to support other people. And
I talked to him a couple days ago, and I said, if I come to the Philippines, he would be my tourist guide.
Dan? You talked to Dan?
I don't know if it was Dan.
I have a guy calling from the Philippines.
Yeah, I
It's
don't know if it
Dan.
was Dan.
It had to have been Dan.
Oh, okay.
I told him today, I go, you're
Oh, yeah.
doing a
maybe
good
it
job.
was him, Yeah.
He's very personable and real, and he wants to be healthier. And so he's seen enough of me to like, you can sell me now, dude. You know, like you've experienced Craig, and you know, we've had some, I've been cracking him up. He's like 30 something, you know. And so these young guys, I was like, they look at me and they look at all the other men my age, and they're like, yeah, he's a lot more fun over there. These other guys are like, what the fuck? Okay, so I've given this talk before. If you go through my YouTubes and you type in some keywords like iodine, you type in keywords like most important. I had this talk we did over a couple of community dinners a couple of years ago in one of the other houses where it was like the most important starting point in health. That's right. So anytime you type important on a search in my channel, it's kind of in the middle. If you don't know the YouTube things well, there's a little search bar. And you just type in like important, and then all the videos that have important either in the title or the description will come up. And it's a great tool because there's a bunch of talks you can limit down, because I mean, I only have like 500 videos in my YouTube account. So if you get 3 strikes, they cut you off and they delete everything.
You lose everything.
You lose everything. I've seen people lose everything. So what they're doing is they're getting backup channels now. And like, I've backed up some of it, but it's like, the only thing constant in life is change, you know, like that's why the Tibetan mandala is one of the most important things, folks, is never be attached. Like, why would the Tibetans spend weeks, months building these beautiful sand mandalas, you know, little grains of sand? How big are they, you think? Those sand mandalas they do, like 10 by 12? Have you seen those things on the ground? I mean, there's like 20 people working around this thing. They start from the middle and work their way out. And it's like ends up being like 8 by 10, 10 by 12, you know, big square footage. It's beautiful, this mandala. And then they spend some time looking at it, and then they sweep it up when they're done. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Leave it there a few days.
But it's the non-attachment.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. And then one of the Indian cultures, Chief Seattle, as the story goes, you know, everything I cite, I usually have to have at least 3 sources for them to talk about it in public. So this is sourced to at least three areas that what they had called in the tribes of the Pacific Northwest, they had a word for this, potlatch, where if the tribal elder or the leader or the chief got too rich, then he had to give everything back to the tribe. So that like the richer you got, there was like a breaking point. It's like, okay, you're too rich now. You got to have a potlatch and have a party and give everything back to everybody else. And they would celebrate it because they weren't attached like we are. Like they're like, you want to buy the land? They just couldn't get the white man philosophy. They were like baffled. Like, how can you buy it? Like, well, what? You don't own it. Like you can never own it. And I just like, it's so beautiful. Because that's the Eden story. See, the white man's the snake. And the natives is like Eve, like the innocence of, right? How could you, what? You can't buy, what? What are you thinking? This isn't viable, you know? And then, but that's the ultimate inversion, is they came in and they called them the savages. But they were the savages, see? Not we, it wasn't us. Those ancestors were they were here to wake up the rest. Like that's what's happening right now, is if one brutal metaphor one of my teachers uses is wake up or die. The trouble is, it actually goes in reverse. You wake up and the ego dies. It's complete bait and switch. Like, Audrey has a book. Who writes a book called The End of Your World? Not very popular title, they would think, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then another one that he wrote, The Impact of Awakening. The Impact of Awakening.
Yeah. What is that?
His poetry book, My Secret is Silence. My secret is silence. So the best we can do is like, because words at best are sort of pointers at our world. So we can fail well. And so like there's pointers at, that's one of the things that I'm out here, this most important thing. So the breath is free to use. And so that's something that in the immediate moment, we can always hope for when we are aware, is to pray to remain aware. that's called having a relationship with grace, to simplify it. Like, because there's this thing called grace, folks. You may not believe in it, but it doesn't matter to me at this point. Like, I don't need beliefs. Carl Jung didn't need beliefs. Once you know, that's what's speaking right now. So those of you who are, in the realm of belief and faith, there's a level beyond that. And there's no limit actually, but there's a level of the transpersonal self that's always and already here. I mean, how's it get any more real than that? If it's always and already here, then the rest of us are in past tense. Because the present moment's always occurring. And then we have to analyze and scrutinize the present moment. Oh my God. Jim's got this little logo on his head over there, and there's a green thing behind him. He's sitting in his chair. Gee, my foot's sitting on there like that. This little fur thing here. And it's like, meanwhile, reality has moved on. Yeah. We're stuck on that one moment, You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that's the game that we've forgotten. Because it's also a game of remembering and forgetting. Remember, forget, remember, forget. I was onto this when I was 4 or 5 years old. I was like, could have been those brief moments of awakening, right? And then like asleep for years, and then it was like another brief moment of awakening, and then asleep for a decade, and then 25, my heart got blown open in an awakening experience of pure love, and it's like, what I thought love was a piece of shit compared to this. Like, wow. It was exactly as the text had said, that I was really into sex, always Torah, sex-based, was that there's something better than orgasm? It's like, oh yeah, for sure. If you don't have hope, there's for sure something better than orgasm. Because you guys know, you're old enough. It's available to anyone because it's always and already here. But we get trained into like, oh, you need the guru, or you need the special technique, or you got your special mantra, your blue light sheltering, and we need my little aura around me to protect me from everybody else's auras. But if it's all one, then what the fuck am I doing? Kind of like, yeah, if it's all one, then what do I need to protect? There's nothing to protect, actually. It's all a story. Here's a good one. The ego is a verb.
Oh, cool. I like that.
That's a good pointer. The ego is a verb. Once there's silence, it's exposed. And anybody that starts meditating and letting everything be as it is kind of meditations, where you're not doing any concentrations or manipulations, 5 minutes of sincere sitting with ourselves is like dynamite in consciousness, because it's like, I never let myself be as it is. I had a woman a decade ago. That's why I challenged her. She was very, very beautiful woman. I'm not going to name her because she would not like that, but I'll just say I worked with her, and I find myself challenging her a lot because she had a lot of mojo, and it just, when you have a lot of mojo, the person sort of in teacher mode's got to like, are they dangerous? What are they going to do with that mojo if I teach them a little bit? Because that's why the Zen master, when you came in to learn with the Zen master, if some people were suspicious, I mean, they would make them camp in the snow for months to prove how badly they wanted it. That's the vetting process that's not really occurring in today's hierarchy, if you will. Like, the beings running the world are actually the bottom of the spiritual totem pole. That's the inversion, see. What I'm here to teach and what I'm a part of is vetting. It's why I'm in the Mankind Project, but I'm sorry, MKP guys, you sold yourself out to the jab, and that's why I dropped out. But I still support, what the men are doing, because some of the men are like, we're going to go off on our own, and that's kind of like what's happening. Is I'm not going to allow testing. I got a pissed off buddy, an MKP leader. He's pissed. I mean, fighting mad, pissed. Because they fly people in from Australia, and then what if you don't want to be tested or jabbed? They require that? Like, cause I'm not gonna, if I'm leading a group with you guys, we're not gonna do any jabbing, testing, social distancing, none of it. It's like, because I'm a health professional, I understand the truth. It's like, it's a lie. I'm not gonna toy up to their lie because I haven't got any fucking balls. Sorry to say, but beep. But and there's nothing personal about it. It's just like, this is World War III of information, and that's why I'm with you guys, the freedom people.
This won't give you a strike, what you're saying.
I don't know. I'm at this point, like, whatever. I could probably, like, we're how far in? We're a certain amount in, so I could
delete it.
Yeah, I could edit it out. It's really easy on YouTube to splice a little chunk out.
Can you delete it now?
No, actually, good idea.